What's up, you guys? It's the Wrestling Old Head. It has now come to the time where we talk about our favorite moments from the year 2025 as 2025 wraps up. It's almost amazing to note that we're already at the end of the year, and there's so much to talk about, so much that sticks out. I'm not really good with notes or properly planning or organizing or anything, so I'm basically going to go off the top of my head. I'm going to start with some things that really stood out, some things that really stood out in things that weren't the top companies, right? And then we're going to move into the top companies, and I'm going to talk about some things that were really good and some things that weren't so great. And I'm going to talk about them from both sides, from the WWE and from AEW. But it wouldn't be right without shining a light on some of the lesser known professional wrestling companies that are out there. So if you want to hear my thoughts on the WWE and AEW and some of the great moments from them and also some of the not so great moments, then stick around. For now, I'm just going to briefly talk about Absolute Intense Wrestling, AIW. That was my first independent wrestling show that I've gone to in a long time. This was the first time that I got to go to an independent wrestling show in Cleveland, Ohio, but we were actually in Akron, Ohio, but we were close to Cleveland, and this was a Midwest independent wrestling show if I've ever seen one, and I've only read about these, and I've seen some clips online, and I've watched a few shows through streaming devices and whatnot, but this was the first time I actually got to see it live. The people in the crowd couldn't have been more nice and welcoming to me being there for the first time. AEW had a lot of diehard fans that had been going for a long time. And one of the guys knew all of the wrestlers. Devin, if you're listening, Devin, shout out to you for making me feel welcomed and also for providing me so much knowledge on the professional wrestlers and some of the storylines going on. So it was easy to catch up with. But they put on and format a really great wrestling show that it's almost a crime that it's not held in bigger arenas. The way that they have the angles and the way that they lay out their feuds was well done. And almost it's a crime in and of itself because it's so worth the price of admission, and the price of admission is so cheap. You go to the show and you get to be a part of an autograph session. And at the show that I went to, they had Elayna Black, Priscilla Kelly, they had Kid Kash, and Bill Alfonso was in attendance. I don't remember him setting up an autograph booth, but he was in attendance and he was very approachable. And this was very soon after Sabu had passed away. R.I.P. to Sabu. We lost a lot of great professional wrestlers in the year 2025, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention that those wrestlers are a part of my childhood, and it was sad to see them go as well. And another professional wrestling promotion that I have not got to see live, but I have to tip my cap to them, is House of Glory Wrestling. In 2025, Deadlock Pro Wrestling took kind of a hiatus. I don't know when they're going to come back. I know they have one more show, I think, at the beginning of 2026, and then they're indefinitely going on a hiatus. And I really hope to see them back, but if they're not coming back, they were the closest to ECW that I can remember. They were going out and having fun shows and doing good backstage segments that were both funny and both made you interested in the product. And they introduced a lot of the great talent that you see in the WWE and in AEW today. Guys like Adam Priest, who has now become a mainstay on AEW Collision. Guys like Jay Malachi and Lucky Ali, who you may know as Javon Evans and Saquon Sugar. Those guys started off in DPW and would tear the house down with guys like Calvin Tankman and Bojack and LeBron Cazone, I think his name is. Jake Something. There was a lot of great talent that would come in and out of there. They used to do a talent trade for Japan, so you saw a lot of Japan's greats that would come to DPW. But House of Glory Wrestling may take the reins from where DPW is leaving. And I watched their Winter Warfare show recently, and I watched a few shows prior. I've been keeping up with the promotion. They've got Jason Solomonster, if you know as Solomonster, who does YouTube content creation, he is their quote-unquote commissioner, and he does play-by-play for them. And the show just has an energy to it. It really does. The crowd at the New York City Arena, they're faithful, and they make it. They make themselves known. They're screaming and they're cheering and they're amplified by what they see going on in the ring. And you see a lot of great talent come in and out of there. And some of the young up and coming talent that I got my eye on, I'm like, these guys are just a couple of storylines away or a couple of big matches away from really making it. Guys like Charles Mason. Charles Mason, he's got such a great character. And if it's fine-tuned in a way that it's going to be more acceptable to the primetime television audience, then I think he can go really far with it. Darren Richardson, or Deron Richardson, I'm not sure which it is, the Amazing Black feuding with Amazing Red. Then you've got the main event, MANE, who are going on a losing streak right now and attempting to get their 4th tag team titles. There's just so much that goes on, and they keep you interested, they keep you drawn in. There's a lot of talent that I've seen come from AEW, so I'm not sure if they have like a partnership with AEW or if they're just in a working relationship with them. But there's a lot. I think I've seen Charles Mason on Collision. Definitely have seen some of the other talent that has walked through HOG, but definitely give them a look and support your local independent wrestling promotions, guys, because that's the housing. With the WWE doing the WWE ID program, it certainly helps. But independent wrestling promotions are where future legends and top stars are going to be born. And I understand. I can hear some WWE faithful telling me right now in the comments how, independent wrestling is responsible for putting on that flippity-flip crap that you see in AEW. Well, you see flippity-flip crap, quote-unquote, everywhere. And that's not all you see in independent wrestling. And you should do yourself a favor and check out a full show, because they definitely have variety. And maybe some promotions seem to cater or accentuate that high-flying style, the high-spot, daredevil, adrenaline junkie style, but you get an array of different styles of professional wrestling when you go to an independent wrestling show. So give it a shot. If you're in your local area, just give your local area a Goog and type wrestling shows, and you should see probably one or two at the very least wrestling promotions that may have some of your past, present, and future superstars in professional wrestling on the card. So do yourself a favor, go check it out. And if you haven't watched it already, I'm going to leave down in the description box below a link to me reviewing my experience with Absolute Intense Wrestling, because I can't big them up enough for their hospitality and for putting on a great show. Now, let's get into the moments, the best moments for AEW and WWE collectively. Now, like I said, I'm going off the top of my head. I don't have any notes here. So I really kind of wanted to get into this idea of like what really stood out for me. What did I remember? Not something that I went to go and do my notes on or, write an article about it, but really off the top of my head, what really stood out. And I think it's important to do that. So off the bat, some of the matches that I remember from the year 2025 that really stood out. Number one, not to say that this is in any order at all, but one of the first things that really popped into my head was the women's triple threat match from WrestleMania. And that was Bianca Belair, that was Io Sky, and that was Rhea Ripley. That was such a phenomenal match that could have been a main event on any WWE PLE card that you could even imagine. They tore the house down. And there was a lot of things that happened that really still sticks into my mind. This was a match that really stole the show. The chemistry that those three have, the way that they told the story in the ring, and the crowd response. Whether you're a 5-star match guy or not, I'm not going to give it a rating, but I think what plays a part in a match being really memorable is the chemistry that you see between the performers in the ring, the crowd's reaction Are they emotionally invested? Do they care? It's not about doing a million kickouts. It's about telling the story in the ring so much that even if you're doing sleeper hold or a waist lock, a spot where you're slowing down, the crowd is still with you. They're chanting. They're banging their feet on the ground so that they can hear the rumble and the vibration. They're so on and into this match. They can't wait to see the finish, and they hope the one that they're picking is going to win. That makes a great match. And when the wrestlers are on fire and they're showing expressions and they're selling really good, there's nothing better. And I believe Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, and Io Sky captured that at WrestleMania. You can also say later on at WrestleMania that CM Punk and Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns did the same thing. There was drama. A shocking ending. Paul Heyman not only turned on CM Punk, which made us believe at the time that he was going to go with Roman Reigns, but then he turned on Roman Reigns and he joined up with Seth Rollins. A very pivotal moment. Changing of the guard, if you will, in the WWE. Something that really stuck out to me this year. On the AEW side, Kenny Omega and Gabe Kidd, who told a wonderful story in the ring. I believe this match was at Wrestle Dynasty, if I remember correctly. But this Wrestle Dynasty was different because it was almost like Forbidden Door, where you had an array of other talent from other promotions like CMLL, and I believe Marigold was involved in this as well. But correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, because like I said, this is off the top of my head. I don't have any notes. And New Japan Pro Wrestling was involved in this as well. And technically DDT was a part of it if you count Konosuke Takeshita, right? But Kenny Omega and Gabe Kidd, it's something about Kenny Omega in Japan. No matter if he's dealing with injuries, no matter if he has certain setbacks, he's still able to essentially knock it out of the park. And that's exactly what he did in this match with Gabe Kidd. What a great dance partner is Gabe Kidd. And I've been advocating for Dave Kidd to become a part of the AEW roster permanently for a long time. Now, I understand New Japan Pro Wrestling is in dire need of top talent right now. They're going through a remodel period where a lot of their legends are bowing out. They're retiring or they're moving on to AEW. And so at the top of the card, New Japan Pro Wrestling just has a lot of young guys that if you give them some time, they're going to blossom and grow to become great wrestlers. Guys like Ren Narita, guys like Oscar Lube or Oleg Boltin. I'm a big fan of Oscar Lube. I think he's going to be a terror. He's 6'7". And 6'7". Yeah, I know. I heard you, young guys. But he's 6'7", and he's a beast. And I think he goes by Oscar now. Very similar to Volta. Like, the guy's got a future, man. And if he stays with it, he's going to be awesome. And I think he speaks like 6 different languages, too. So he's like an amalgamation, like a hybrid of Claudio Castagnoli and Volter. I mean, this guy keeps going at this rate. If he starts to adapt to the American style, he's going to be a beast. But that's not what I'm talking about. Here, talk about Kenny Omega and Gabe Kidd. What a phenomenal match. Another phenomenal match was Will Ospreay against Kyle Fletcher. Those two are great dance partners. And every match that I've ever seen them in, they've been able to tear the house down. And the one match that really sticks out to me is the match they had at Revolution. Some would say that it went on too long, but it told a great story in the ring. And if you really know the lore behind Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher, where they were as a team in the United Kingdom way back in the New Japan Pro Wrestling days, then you can understand that Kyle Fletcher was trying to get out of the shadow of Will Ospreay. Told a phenomenal story in the ring. And Kyle Fletcher's new attitude, trying to step out of that shadow and be his own person, even up to shaving his head. Just phenomenal stuff. And those two have a hard-hitting, unabashed, just full-force style that hooks me in all the time. And when it's done right, it's done right. There was actually something there to get me emotionally invested. And I have to tip my cap to it. Another moment for AEW that I have to give props to. But there's going to be a slight here because I was only excited for the moment. And then quickly after I felt like it deserved to be someone else. But we'll get to that later. Follow along with me. Hangman Adam Page against Jon Moxley at AEW All In. It is when Jon Moxley loses and Hangman Adam Page finally opens the briefcase and pulls out the AEW World title that has been kept hidden for upwards of 9 months. It was such an important and pivotal moment. It reminded me of Cody Rhodes finishing his story in that Hangman Adam Page finally unlocked AEW from the traps of the Death Riders who were holding it hostage and promising to make AEW great again. And it was only then that AEW got to be free and hopefully become great again. And it was such a great moment. However, I must say, popular opinion, maybe not. Hot take, maybe not. It didn't deserve to be Hangman Adam Page. And as the year progressed, we noticed that his world title run, his second world title run, was once again a bit uneventful. I believed it should have been Darby Allin. I believe that was the story to tell. When we last left off from Darby Allin, he was getting thrown down a flight of stairs and stomped on his head by the Death Riders. And it was Jon Moxley that cut a promo on Darby Allin and told him that I'm taking your AEW world title shot because you're not ready. So the whole story should have been that Darby Allin was climbing up to the highest mountain peaks, doing something that very few people could do, to come back down and show Jon Moxley that he's ready. The entire Rocky story. And Jon Moxley, as we do know, he's a fan of the Rocky movies. That would have been the story to tell. But when Darby Allin came back down from that mountaintop, he wasn't ready. And so they had to pivot. And that was the story of AEW and WWE in 2025. They did a lot of pivots. Was it all must-see TV, the best wrestling in the world? I'd say no, it wasn't. There were a lot of things that were a bit underwhelming. Half-cooked. Medium rare. And it was then, and although I do like some stuff that's medium rare, let's keep it a thou wow, especially if we're talking about steak, but I digress. In the WWE, they did some things that, for whatever reason, they had to pivot and go in a different direction, and I'm talking about the John Cena retirement tour. This was a retirement tour that's basically a tale of two sides. You had the first half, when John Cena showed the signs of becoming frustrated at the fact that he was losing. He lost the Royal Rumble to Jey Uso, and this was his one opportunity at Elimination Chamber to get a chance to be the never seen 17 and win the World Championship. So he made a deal with the devil, the final boss, The Rock. And I would say, got to give my props. Probably one of the better, I'm not going to say great, because then I just hear Tony Khan in my head saying great. I'm going to say that was probably one of the better heel turns that I've seen in a really long time. John Cena's heel turn at Elimination Chamber was executed in such a way I could not shake it from my mind. It was phenomenal. It was a memory. The other side of that, the other part of the John Cena heel turn, wasn't the best. But I will say, we got John Cena against Randy Orton. We got John Cena against AJ Styles. We got to see heel John Cena. It may not have been what we wanted, and it may have been about 9 or 10 years too late. But hey, we got to see it before he retired. I remember there was people that complained about these three things all the time, ad nauseum. They thought that John Cena held the young guys down and won a lot of matches. They thought John Cena never turned heel when he needed to turn heel. And they thought that John Cena couldn't wrestle. And he proved all of you guys wrong. He gave you all of the things that you felt that he couldn't give you. He gave you the heel turn. He lost a lot of pivotal matches, including his final match. He helped the young guys out. And he turned heel. Like, he did it all. What more did you want from him? Now, I know. No expiration date on these things, though. I know it might have felt like it was too late, but at least you got it. And the final match between Gunther, a lot of people, it's been so polarizing. Everybody from some wrestling legends that I hold in reverence, that I look up to, I don't agree with what their take is. They thought that Gunther shouldn't have beat John Cena the way that he did. I understand why John Cena did that. He didn't want to leave any trace of a comeback. He wanted to effectively kill the character of John Cena. All of those kids that grew up and said never give up, they're older now. They should understand the message. Character John Cena is gone. Human being John Cena, actor John Cena, that lives on for a new chapter. But the message of never give up, it's still intact. Even though you're watching in the center of the ring him tapping out, it's just for the character. And as you get older, you start to appreciate and understand it a lot more. If in professional wrestling, people say they retire all the time. He did not want to say he was retiring and have like that inkling to come back. Well, I should come back. I never really tapped out, so maybe I should come back. He didn't want to be that way. So he left no trace. This was the effective death. This was Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. This was the death of that character. And he went out the way that he wanted to go out for his thematic purposes. That was his choice. And might not be everybody's favorite, but because of that loss, Gunther is more hated. Because of that loss, now we have an opportunity to build a new superhero that will beat Gunther and become one of the most popular guys in WWE for this new era. And speaking of new era, some great moments, a lot of breakout stars, guys like Javon Evans, guys like Kevin Knight, guys like Oba, Femi, gals like Sol Ruka, Kalani Jordan, Kendall Gray, Blake Monroe, or Mariah. It's gonna be May. And Megan Bain and Queen Aminata. There's a lot of talent that had breakout moments in 2025 and showed a lot of promise. Kendall Gray, I have to say, one of the most exciting young stars that's on the come up in WWE that I've seen in a long time. She has a presence. She has an excitement. She has an energy that if they don't mess this up, it's going to be dynamic, especially when she works with Maddie Rinkowski. I mean, my goodness. I've been a fan of Maddie Rinkowski for a long time. I'm sorry, she's Ren Sinclair now, but I've been a fan of hers since like the NWA days, the independent days. I think she's a phenomenal heel, and eventually we'll get a chance to see that side of her, but I didn't even think she was that good of a fan favorite until I saw her on NXT, and she really came into her own. Her Twitter account is hilarious, and if you haven't checked it out, I would ask you, if you want a good laugh and some great entertainment, go check out her X handle under Ren Sinclair. But Kendall Gray is going to be an amazing talent. At this point, she's already leveled up strides. She can do great stuff in the ring already, and once she's really given that opportunity, she's going to show the world how great she really is, and she's got a great upside. Sol Ruka, another phenomenal superstar. I've already talked about Javon Evans with Jay Malachi in Deadlock Pro Wrestling, but the future is really bright for that guy. And one of the great things about the WWE right now for a talent like Javon Evans is he gets to travel the world. He gets to go work for AAA. I would love to see him work for Pro Wrestling Noah. He gets to go and work these different companies and work with these different legends and great talents and have these great matches. And as a young guy that's like 22 or 23 years old or something like that, it's only going to give him more experience. Now, Javon Evans is no rookie. He is 22, 23 years old, but he's been wrestling for 10 or 11 years. Yes, he's been wrestling since he was 12, 13 years old. The same for Leon Slater, who's been wrestling since he was 8 or 9 years old. So those guys really came together because they had been wrestling basically since they were kids. It's an amazing accomplishment, and it shows that it's not so shocking why they have such great instincts in the ring. And they really do. It's like almost impossible for me to look at them as a rookie, to see the way that they move in the ring and the type of psychology that they apply to their matches throughout, even with their death-defying stunts. So, some of the things, because I don't want to hold you too much longer, some of the things that also stuck out for me in 2025 that I have to speak about. I really liked Toni Storm against Mariah May, the Hollywood ending. And I know that match isn't for everyone. And I know that the blood and the guts, pun intended there, has been like a running theme for AEW this year in 2025, where they feel that a lot of fans feel like it was done in excess. I don't mind it one way or another, but I will say that there are moments where it feels like it's absolutely necessary, and this was the match that felt like it was absolutely necessary, and it was such a fitting in. And at the time, I had no idea that Mariah May was on her way out in AEW, but what a great way to bow out, right? That was one of the better matches, complete with, on the big screen, them flashing the end like an old 50s or 60s movie. Phenomenal stuff. And Toni Storm has a great dance partner, Mariah May. I don't know if Mariah May is ever going to come back. She's Blake Monroe right now in NXT, but that was a great feud. It was great for the Toni Storm character. The one thing that I have to say is, what time will tell, is Toni Storm going to be the same without Mariah May? And is Blake Monroe going to be the same without being Mariah May alongside Toni Storm? Time will tell. But they really had something going there. It was very special. And because it was kind of gone in the blink of an eye, it really sticks in my head a lot more, because they didn't run its course. You know, we haven't been seeing Toni Storm against Mariah May on Dynamite, and then on Collision, and then in a barbed wire death match at the, you know, at World's End or something, you know? It's like we really got to see it, we got to appreciate it, and then it was gone, like a movie. And because of that, it was memorable. AJ Styles against John Cena at Crown Jewel, I believe, was really good. Gunther against CM Punk at SummerSlam. They started off a little clunky, but in my opinion, I think it was great. It was a wrestling match, and wrestlers wrestle. Like it was a wrestling fan's wrestling match. If you're a wrestling fan, you would love that type of style of match. Lyra Valkyria, another breakout star that I forgot to mention earlier that I definitely have to give props to. She has done great work, and I think it helps that she's been working with some of the best women's talent of all time in Becky Lynch and in Bayley. That can only help. Another thing that I forgot to mention that before I end this video, I have to mention, which is Kevin Owens against Sami Zayn at Elimination Chamber, which was in Toronto, Canada. Amazing match. I've been watching Kevin Steen against El Generico for a long time. Whether they were a tag team in Tag Wars with the Briscoe brothers, or whether they were battling each other in smaller promotions in Canada or in the Northeast, or even in Ring of Honor. So it was really nice to see their story told. And maybe that's not the end of Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. Maybe it is. But if it is, very similar to Toni Storm and Mariah May, I felt like it told a great story. So, in total, professional wrestling in 2025 was very polarizing. And that's to say the least, right? There have been a lot of good moments. There have been a lot of lackluster ones. There have been a lot of things that we got excited about that never ended up happening for one reason or another, that left us kind of underwhelmed. So for 2025, the optimist in me, and I'm an internal optimist, believes that in 2026, we can get everything that we thought we were going to get in 2025, because 2024 was such a breakout year, was such a phenomenal year. Well, it was one for WWE. AEW, they were getting out of a rut, but the WWE, they were on fire. And it's hard to kind of like keep that pace up, especially when you're ticket pricing yourself out of the game and you're still selling out. It doesn't leave a whole lot of motivation for you to do fantasy booking stuff that we've all been hoping you would do, right? So in 2026, we're probably going to see a lot of retirements. It's going to be like a retirement tour of a lot of guys. If you think about it, Brock Lesnar, Chris Jericho, AJ Styles, Jeff Jarrett, they could all be bowing out gracefully. You may also see the retirement of Sheamus. You may see the possible retirements of The Miz or of R-Truth. All of these guys could potentially be retiring. We almost saw Amazing Red retire at Winter Warfare. So, in this changing of the guard, the WWE is going to have to lean on some of their young talent and really give them a chance to shine. And I believe that's what we're going to see in 2026. It's going to be a make it or break it moment, because pretty soon the WWE isn't going to be able to lean on Brock Lesnar or lean on John Cena or AJ Styles or even Randy Orton, who may be retiring as well, or at least going into a part-time role with the WWE. On the AEW side, they had to lean on a lot of their homegrown talent and their roster the way it was because they dealt with a lot of injuries. But in 2026, a lot of guys could be potentially making their return. Will Ospreay. Now, if Will Ospreay comes back with an already stacked main event the way that we see it, there could be potential to have some great matches. It's got to mean something, though, and there's got to be a purpose. Swerve and Hangman, they already have like a mutual respect. MJF has made his triumphant return, and he seems to be more of a fan favorite these days. Samoa Joe is still a calculated leader of a grizzled stable, but we don't understand what his motivations really are at this moment, and hopefully that can become more clear as World's End concludes. So there's so much to be excited about in the year 2026. 2025 definitely had some moments that stood out. I told you what stood out for me. What say you, my friend? What stood out for you in 2025? Some of your best moments, some of your worst moments. Do you disagree with some of my moments? Do you not? Or do you agree with some of my moments? If you do, go ahead and leave a comment down in the comment section below and let me know what you think. Thumbs up on the way out, you guys. And if you're new around here, stay true around here and hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell, because you never know when I'm going to be dropping out of the portal of pro wrestling to drop you with the hotness. This has been the Wrestling Old Head, you guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for catching me. And I'll see you in the next one.